by subscribing and leaving comments.
Listening to Sunday Night Live on Q95.
Sunday Night Live.
We can make an impact, grab and then take it.
Good evening. The show is Sunday Night Live. I'm Jay Baker, and with some luck, you'll be joining us today on Comcast Cable Channel 36. But if you don't have Comcast service in your home, just settle back and relax. As you know, week after week, we always say Sunday Night Live is a show that always sounds better in the dark. Well, tonight's show is about things that go bump in the dark, literally. Let's say you're at the State Forest campground somewhere in southern Indiana and go to sleep and just may wonder to yourself, is there something more out there than just that cold night air? Maybe indeed there is. The reason why I even would bring that up in the first place is tonight we're going to talk about our old buddy Sasquatch. You may know him as Bigfoot, and if you've seen the movie Harry and the Hendersons, you know how difficult it would be to prove that indeed you discovered Sasquatch if you had. It's been reported that Sasquatch has been sighted here in Indiana. Oftentimes when you think about Bigfoot, you think about the American Northwest or you think about Canada, but it may be occurring right here in our own backyard, literally. Joining us in the studio, 4 investigators who have been searching Sasquatch out in Indiana from the Purdue Cryptozoological Society. We have Joe Webster and Jim Dooley, and also joining us in the studios is Art Kapa and Doug McCoy. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to Sunday Night Live.
Good evening.
Howdy.
Very good. Hope with some luck we have sort of a new mic situation and everything, but we'll try and get you guys all on and get you guys started up. First of all, before we even start the show off, I know when we were originally contacted, the phrase Cryptozoological Society certainly caught my ear and sounds very, very official. Did you guys come up with this name just to meet women, or is this well, what would a Cryptozoological Society do?
You want to take that, John?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, basically, cryptozoology is the study of hidden or mysterious animals, which, the crypto, and then zoology is, the study of animals. And we didn't come up with the name ourselves. There is actually an International Cryptozoological Society, which is interested in this sort of material.
So, hence, you would be looking for, let's say, unicorns and things of that nature, or are we going to look? I mean, I guess, and I don't mean to poke fun, but would we say, Sasquatch perhaps has more validity than, let's say, the unicorn, or are we looking for the unicorn here too, or just kind of point out what we're looking for here?
I think we could say that Sasquatch definitely has more validity than unicorns.
Basically, we're talking about creatures that there have been some sightings. There's at least some evidence to substantiate their existence. I mean, I don't know of too many unicorn sightings recently, but there have been literally dozens of Bigfoot sightings here in Indiana and hundreds around the United States. And there are other things, lake monsters. We've talked about Loch Ness Monster, Ogopogo, creatures like that in general.
Now, is Indiana a real hotbed for some of these monsters that we would consider phantom monsters, or is it just does it rank about where other states are for sightings of other animals?
Well, surprisingly, there are probably more than you'd expect in Indiana, especially down in southern Indiana. There have been, I don't know, at least 20 that we're familiar with that have been, in recent years in that area. I mean, by recent, I mean like the past 20 or 30 years. And obviously not quite so many as you probably find out in Washington State or Oregon, but still, quite a few.
A little bit further down the table, too, Art Kapa and Doug McCoy. Art and Doug, how did you get involved in this search for Sasquatch?
I got involved in it in, about 58 when I first heard about the incident in Northern California with Jerry Cruz and the construction crew.
And that incident was? That
was when they were building a new road in the area. The Sasquatch creatures would come around the vehicles. Their footprints would be left, hundreds of them. A 55-gallon drum full of fuel oil was literally carried to the edge of the road and thrown into a ravine. It was also told that a trailer full of culverts was overturned, supposedly by the creatures themselves. And I've been interested in them since that period of time, but unfortunately, being in the military, I just couldn't get up and go.
And Doug, how did you fuel your interest in Sasquatch?
I think it was, I read some books about it in high school, and I thought it was interesting. It wasn't until after I went to college that I read another book that rekindled my interest enough to, well, the book was Bigfoot by Kenneth Wiley, and it said something in there about Michigan. And I thought, well, when I first read about it, I thought, the Pacific Northwest, yeah, it's really rugged out there, and there's a lot of country, and I could see it'd be possible for it to exist out there. But then I read something about Michigan, and I thought, well, that's close. I'm going to go up there and talk to this guy and just see what he's found. And that's when I got a hold of Art. And I did some digging around in southern Indiana where we have forest, and I've come across people that claim they've seen this thing.
Now, gentlemen, before we go any further with our show, do we all conclude here that the four of you collectively believe that Sasquatch does exist?
Well, Jay, it's not a question of what we believe or what we don't believe. We merely want to investigate whether or not there is.
Oh, I know. Most certainly, and I'm going to give you all your scientific basis.
We're not going to.
Well, let's just cut through the fog, because I used to work with a guy who used to give me that same line, and I'm not objecting to it. I'm not objecting to it, but I want to know. I want you guys to tell me in your heart of hearts, do you believe Sasquatch exists?
I'm an agnostic, Jay. As I said before, the thing is, you're not going to get me to commit myself one way or the other. No.
Joe, how about yourself? You seem like the kind of guy that would believe that Sasquatch does exist.
Well, that's rather odd. No, actually, I sort of take the same sort of view. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people down there, and I think Doug feels the same way about this. A lot of people down in southern Indiana who do claim to have seen something, people who wouldn't have any other reason to make something like this up. And a lot, so many of the stories have, the elements are so similar that it's hard not to believe that there's something. And we don't, maybe Bigfoot, it may be something else, but we are, interested in finding out what it is.
Because you'd be perceived as a crackpot, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's part of the safe assumption that if you truly believe. Art, you seem pretty devout about this whole thing. Does Sasquatch exist?
90% of the time, I believe. I couldn't give it 100%.
And what does he do that other 10%? I'm just kidding, Art.
The other 10% is if I see the darn thing myself.
Okay, very good. And Doug, your feelings about Sasquatch?
That's about the same way. There is something to this. I don't know what Sasquatch is, but these people are seeing something. So I guess it would exist that way, I'm sure of. You're not going to convince me that it doesn't exist. There's just too many people that say, hey, I've seen this.
Now, you guys are looking more at the investigative level, the purely scientific level. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm going to test my hypothesis against a set of facts. Right. Art and Doug, you guys seem to be more of the emotional aspect of it. Do you guys, is this the kind of thing, I mean, do you feel that people would question your sanity for your belief in this?
Well, the people that do that, they don't know anything about it. They're just going from their prejudices, if that's a word.
Because if there was a Sasquatch, wouldn't the Colts try and sign him? Because I think they could really use some help at inside linebacker.
Oh, yeah, I wish they would.
But no, I mean, just it's the type of thing, and as you guys said, I mean, mythical creatures. I mean, Loch Ness is a mythical creature, but yet there are people, and you will oftentimes read accounts that somebody with a sonar has a picture of Loch Ness.
Right.
Somebody has a photograph of it. There's been several photographs of Sasquatch. In fact, we'll get into some of the photographs. In fact, do we have some that supposedly have been taken here in Indiana
Yes,
of the actual Sasquatch? And Sasquatch, of course, would be some type of primitive being that is an upright walking mammal, we would assume. It's very large and would be a throwback to some other times. Where exactly does Sasquatch fall into this evolutionary idea between ape and man? Or is he something...
I wouldn't even attempt to answer that because I'd be sticking my neck out. First, let's find it, let's prove it, and then let's put it in category.
So is he more man or more...
Well, it's more human-like than it is animal. So a lot of people that do view it say it looks so human, not meaning it is human.
Yeah, but human-like. Now, let me ask you this.
Footprints are similar to human footprint, only larger.
From what you guys have gathered, as you said, other people that have viewed this, does it show any type, does Sasquatch show any type of human tendencies? And it's sort of a vague terminology, but perhaps an animal that appears that some of the things that it's doing, I mean, when it's viewed, obviously it's doing something.
Right.
Does it appear to have some type of human patterns to it? Does it collect things? Does it make tools? Is it showing any type of types of things that we would attribute to humanness?
I've never read any accounts of it using tools, and it does appear to be a curious animal. I mean, there are a lot of reports of it coming up watching people fishing or when they're working in a garden or whatever. But by the same token, a lot of animals exhibit curiosity. So I'm not completely convinced that it's so closely related to humans that we should call it human, or at least nearly so.
Very good. 239-1095. We're talking about Sasquatch and whether he exists right here in the state of Indiana. And I think, Don, I might have accidentally already asked your question. You're on the air at Sunday Night Live on Q95.
Yeah. Oh well.
But that's basically what you want to know. Was it more ape or more man, right?
Yeah. I also had a quick. Well, first off, I talked to you last week, Jay, and I just wanted to let you know I really enjoy the show again.
Thank you very much.
How many sightings have we had in Indiana, and has there been any type of proof, solid or weak at all, from around here?
The sightings that I've checked out personally have only been, I think, about 12. But there's been a lot more. I haven't actually talked to the people and got their depositions. It just comes from newspaper reports. Probably out of the 12 sightings that I personally have investigated, about half of them are hard to find fault in. I mean, these people are so sincere and have more to lose by telling me this story if the word would get out than to gain. I don't know. It's hard to say. If you got 10 people that see a Sasquatch, if it exists, one of them might talk to us about it.
Uh-huh.
But do you feel that they're all part of when we've had UFO investigators on, and part of some of their data collection technique is to see, are the stories similar? Do the people have any ability to confer with each other before they tell you these stories? And as you said, an apparent belief of validity or not, meaning do they seem pretty sober as they told you these stories? I guess, did you notice this trend? Were there enough similarities in the sightings?
Yeah.
Were there any footprints or anything like that you found, or like physical evidence?
Some of the sightings have tracks, and there's quite a few more track finds than there are sightings as far as our investigation goes. And
these tracks couldn't be anything else.
They're either fabricated or they're Sasquatch tracks, and probably half of those again are. I can't figure out how they faked them.
Nobody went to Costumes by Margie and is walking around in the gorilla feet or anything like that?
Yeah, the places, and I've heard that excuse. I say, they say, well, it's somebody in an ape suit, but in some of these places where they've had sightings, if you go around in an ape suit, you're going to get blasted.
Certainly.
I mean, guys stick out the back door with a shotgun and...
pretty rural areas, and guys like to protect their property, and obviously, if you were Sasquatch, you better be able to run quickly or dodge buckshot, right?
I'm totally against. I don't want to see the thing get I don't think it should be killed.
Now, why, if it's been spotted up, there's an awful lot of good hunters there. You think anybody's ever winged a Sasquatch?
Well, there's been people that shoot, not a lot, but there's been some. But it seems like they never they shoot it and the thing runs off, and they never really go after it.
But generally they're shooting in panic anyway, and they probably can hit the broadside of a barn. But let's say a few of them were shot by accident. Now we're looking at a tremendously huge creature, all muscle bound. A misplaced shot, this creature can go for miles and miles and disappear completely.
Yeah, if you winged him, you'd probably make him pretty mad too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to chase him down after he was mad.
Yeah, look how many deer people have to chase that are shot with heavy-powered deer rifles. If it isn't a good dead shot, the deer can go for miles and die, and there goes the deer.
Very good. Don, I appreciate your telephone call tonight.
Thanks a lot, Jay.
The show is Sunday Night Live. We're talking about the search for Sasquatch, and we have 4 investigators/experts in our studio. And Keith, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, has anybody ever tried to set up like an expedition, go to one of those sighting places and try to capture one of the Sasquatch or Bigfoot?
Yeah, there hasn't been too much success with that, but one of the things that our organization's doing, Purdue Cryptozoological Society, is that we've been accumulating all the sightings and finding out some of the areas where there have been repeated sightings, and also talking to local residents in the areas. And we are planning this April actually to go down for several days to at least, if not find out more information about it. And our view, we are, if we can get a shot at it, we are interested in bringing one back. But it's, we'll differ with Art and Doug on this, but we think that's probably the most effective way to prove that one does exist.
Yeah, well, I don't too much believe much of those tabloid magazines, but they talk about catching the baby Bigfoot and that kind of stuff. Is there any truth to any of that?
I don't know. Let's just say no straight off. But
I did see the baby Bigfoot though at the state fair, and I'm pretty sure it was Bigfoot. I don't know, but I like the state fair, so I'm not going to quit going. So
them papers are about as honest as our politicians in Washington.
I didn't believe it. You kind of wonder. It kind of sits in the back of your mind. Say, well, wonder if there really is one out there or not. I just kind of wonder. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Keith. I appreciate it. The show is Sunday Night Live. Tonight we're talking about Sasquatch. He goes bump in the night, or at least we think that he might. And he might be right here in the state of Indiana. Might be in your backyard. The show that always sounds better in the dark, and tonight maybe I ought to leave at least one light on. It's Sunday Night Live, Comcast Cable Channel 36 and Q95. We'll be right back. Good evening, I'm Jay Baker. Tonight we're talking about the search for Sasquatch. There's some people here in the state of Indiana that feel that he may be in our very own backyard. Sasquatch, the legendary Bigfoot, which has basically been attributed to the American Southwest, or actually the Northwest, because of its rocky terrain. But there may be enough state forest here in the state of Indiana to actually conceal a beast of this size. And joining us in the studio, Joe, Jim, Art, and Doug. Thanks a lot for joining us this evening. We'll be taking your telephone calls at 239-1095. There's already been that interesting question posed. If he exists, why not just get a big party and track him down? That's what you guys have talked about. Right. Art, Doug, how do you feel being investigators to this phenomena? Is this a good idea to do, or is this just
a large party? No. I tried that years ago, and it's been tried in the Pacific Northwest, and it backfired. You get too many people in an area, you're going to make more noise than a National Guard, and all you can do is scare the creature out of the area, if he's in the area.
Let me ask you this. Is there anybody that has the expertise to track Sasquatch? One would assume, with his large size, that he must have a great deal of stealth to stay as concealed as he has.
When you get onto hard ground, like in the Hoosier there, you've got soft areas where if you know what you're looking for, you can find a track. But once you get up into the harder pan, the track disappears. Unless you want to study blades of grass, and you could be there for a year. In the meantime, the Sasquatch could be back in California.
Gentlemen around the table, anytime that the FBI starts to track a criminal, they put together some facts about him. Undoubtedly, there's some facts that have been collected about Sasquatch from the sightings, from the tracks, from what some people have supposed about him. What would be sort of a profile, if you will, of the Sasquatch? And I'll just put this around the table already. Jim, you're kind of looking through your stuff here rapidly. I assume that you have probably right in front of you a certified profile psychologically and physically of our man Sasquatch.
Well, it's not notarized or anything, Jay, but it's a little article by John Green, who's written a number of books on Sasquatch, among them Sasquatch, the Apes Among Us. He mentions, in general, Sasquatches are significantly larger than humans, and not only in height. They're solitary creatures. Only 5% of reports involve more than one individual, and only 1% involve more than two individuals. Their hairiness is of the animal, not the human sort. The proportions of their limbs are more human-like than ape-like. From the shoulders up, there is less resemblance to the average human, so shoulders are termed wide in more than 90% of descriptions. 70% of necks are short, and 25% have no neck. Flat faces, large flat noses, sloped foreheads, and brow ridges are noted in nearly all descriptions.
Okay, you guys agree, disagree? This is a noted scholar's description of what Sasquatch looks like.
John Green is not a true investigator in a sense. He has gathered data throughout the years. He has done very little field investigation. And this is what he compiled from all the sighting reports that was given to him throughout the years. From newspaper articles dealing with the public in itself. And it sounds okay to a degree, but I'll have to disagree with a lot of things John Green has to say. Nothing against John Green.
I guess we as humans tend to be interested in how the face may look of this, especially I think they brought out the so-called human element that may be Sasquatch and Harry and the Hendersons. I don't mean to bring that up to add an air of flippancy to the proceedings, but I mean that's...
Oh, it's required viewing of all the Purdue cryptozoological members.
And it makes you, certainly, and it evokes an emotion. But I think one of the elements of the show that I found extremely interesting was that the conference about what the Sasquatch would look like facially. I think we would like to feel, as humans, we'd like to have a certain empathy with this creature that has eluded us for so long. If we were to stare into the face of Sasquatch, what would we see?
You would see basically a face not quite similar to a gorilla, and not quite human either. It's, I would say, a race in between. Because there's very few people that have come face-to-face with the creature itself and actually could give you a good facial description.
All right.
They just freeze right up. It's locked more than likely in their subconscious, but they can't give you a good description.
Is Sasquatch an aggressive animal, as far as we know?
No, doesn't seem to have it.
No, there is no documented proof that a Sasquatch has ever hurt another human being. Now, if you want to go back 100 years, by the time the story is retold and retold and retold, well, you know, it could have been King Kong on the Empire State Building that was Sasquatch.
And is Sasquatch considered a carnivore, vegetarian?
Or omnivore would be the general theory anyway.
Of course, or an opportunistic carnivore.
Opportunistic carnivore, which is a nice way of saying that if there's some easy, readily accessible prey, you'll take care of it. Thank you. Jay Baker, Zoology, Miami. Okay. But these guys are from Purdue, and they know a lot of things. Indeed, tonight's show is about Sasquatch and the search for Sasquatch, specifically in the state. We have 4 gentlemen that know a great deal about it. And Chuck, you're on the air at Sunday Night Live on Q95.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm not a paleontologist, but if we're talking about a carbon-based life form, probably a mammal, one would have to assume that if he is in fact alive, that his predecessors would have had to have died and left remains of some sort. However elusive he is, if he dies, then there would be bones, hair, that sort of thing around. Why haven't we found any of those?
Well, Chuck, there are a couple different theories on that. One of them, there have been a couple reports of people seeing a Sasquatch carry off a dead or injured member. And it's quite possible that they do have some sort of ritual, perhaps, or that they do bury their young. And, I mean, even if they aren't, human, it's quite possible that they do, take them to caves or do something with them where we can't find them. And also, by the same token, how many times do you find, the remains of a mountain lion in the wild? I mean, it's very difficult. You're talking about such a big area that it is difficult to find something like that. And nature does
have its own disposal system.
Right.
But no evidence whatsoever. That's pretty fantastic.
Well, there are hair samples that have been found that cannot be identified, and that's probably some of the best evidence If people have found hair samples, send them in, and they're returned with, that we can't, identify what it is. It's nothing we know, but we can't say it's a Sasquatch either. There's nothing to compare it to. So, there are those samples.
So, no bone evidence or anything. That's possible. I mean, the species could leave no trace of.
Well, considering how unlikely it is to find the remains of common animals like deer or whatever in the woods, I mean, it's really not unreasonable to think that you'd find no remains of a Sasquatch.
Yeah, correct.
Well,
thanks a lot, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Now, would there be any type of fossil that we could look at that would resemble Sasquatch? I know that's certainly one of the searches that we had as we tried to discover more about ourselves as human beings. Fossils that would link us to our past. Is there anything that points to a Sasquatch in the way of fossil findings?
Well, there are a couple theories, like Gigantopithecus, which was a prehistoric creature that was, I believe they described it as a gigantic something. It's, there is no way we can prove that there's a direct link, but there are creatures in the fossil record that do at least seem to resemble descriptions of Sasquatch and might, be, in their evolutionary past.
Very good. The show is Sunday Night Live, and we have our Sasquatch investigators here. We're talking about Sasquatch in the state of Indiana and otherwise. And Craig, you're on the air.
Hi. I was wondering, have there been any pictures, not only in Indiana, but anywhere in the United States, that could prove that there is such an animal? Because I really kind of I have a hard time believing in things like that.
Well, pictures will never prove.
Well, film is the closest you
yeah, a picture won't prove it. The only thing that's been decent has been the Patterson film for the last 20 years.
But the scientists reject that.
There's a lot of, you could do a 2-hour, 3-hour show just on the Patterson film and all the circumstances around it. It's a long story.
This apparently is a film that was shot of Sasquatch himself as he moved about.
In Northern California in 1967.
Now, what was the media? Was it like shot on Super 8 or
16
millimeter film?
It was a rented movie camera, rented by Roger Patterson. Bob Gimlin went along with them, and they were filming a documentary on the way in on horseback.
I see.
And they went around a log jam, and there was a Sasquatch, supposedly kneeled down, either drinking water or doing something in the water. The creature stood up. The horses seen the creature at the same time. Roger Patterson got thrown out the horse. Bob Gimlin stayed in the horse and pulled his rifle. Roger Patterson grabbed the 16 millimeter movie film, and he only had 26 feet of film left, so he filmed the whole 26 feet of the creature as it was walking away from him.
I see, and this is one of these shots. This is a frame taken from that film. This is a picture that I myself have seen, and I think that on other documentaries I have seen part of the footage from that so-called Patterson film, and it is pretty compelling. It shows some type of a human-like creature that's not quite human, of course, and as you said, though, that is the closest we've come. That's the closest scrape that we've
human,
had.
Except for the long hair, just because he don't smoke cigarettes or drink beer, who knows? We don't
Very
know.
good. Very good. Craig, I appreciate your call tonight.
Okay, thanks a lot.
The show is about Sasquatch. 239-1095 is our telephone number. And Jim, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you guys said that you guys were from Purdue or associated. Is that a club there at Purdue?
Yeah, we're a student organization.
Any affiliation with the anthropology department there?
Well, only affiliation is that we have members of our club who are in the anthropology department, and I'm an anthropology minor, so that's certainly affiliation.
I seem to remember I took an anthropology course there, and I seem to remember the instructor giving some what seemed like perfectly reasonable reasons to say that it doesn't exist for some of the reasons that a listener a couple minutes ago said. Never discovered bones, fossils, feces, things like that. Their scientists have spent their lives, hundreds and thousands of them, looking for ancient human remains. If this thing were out there, they would have found it.
Well, a lot of them aren't. I guess with the fossil record, it's so incomplete too. Not every animal that ever existed has been fossilized, and it's a hit and miss business. So I conceive it as being possible. I've never had a class at Purdue where we've talked about Bigfoot per se, so I really don't know.
I think it's interesting to note too that when you search for man leaves such a field of debris behind. Modern man It's if you go fishing at a place in a lake, you can pretty much tell if there's guys that have been there before you. Pretty much anywhere man has gone, even from Roman times on, or even the early toolmaker man, left such a trail of debris that they were pretty easy to spot. Apparently, Sasquatch is of a different ilk, correct? Maybe more along the lines of how the gorillas live, where they're
chimpanzee or something like that, right?
Where they would leave less of their physical possessions behind to do that. And as you said, the fossil record is rather inconclusive on a number of species. But I do appreciate your telephone call, Jim.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Now, for this cryptozoological club, don't you have to go on a big snipe hunt or something before they actually allow you into the club? You have to...
Oh, you just have to go down to the co-rec at the armory, get together a couple of ROTC guys, and fire off some 22s, and we sign you right up.
Shave your head and paint your forehead, and it's a great deal of fun, and we urge all students to get involved. Greg, you're on the air at Sunday Night Live on Q95.
Yes, sir. This is Greg Wright.
Yes.
And I was down at Cove Creek, Tennessee, around Birdtown, Tennessee, and it was last April. Me and a buddy of mine were fishing all day, and
yes, go on. We're at the edge of our seats now, Greg.
Okay, it's a price. You don't have to pay for it or anything to go fishing there. Okay, we decided to camp out.
Right.
Okay, it was it's 4 miles off of Highway 42, back down Del Hollow Lake, and about 9:30, I shine my Brinkman around. I don't know why. I just had an intuition. And there's a outhouse between a tree and the outhouse. Okay.
I'm familiar. I've seen that, yeah.
Okay. This thing, it stood between 6 feet, I'd say 5.5 feet, 6 feet tall.
So you've actually seen a Sasquatch?
I've seen it. I'm going to tell you about its eyes, how they change. Okay, it was to check us out at first. Because I tried to light a fire at night with Coleman gas on wet wood. It didn't work. Okay? Well, we give up, and we finally went to the truck, and we said, heck with it. We found a station on the radio, was getting dried off and stuff. And
hopefully you were listening to Q95 at the time, weren't you?
Pardon me?
You were listening to Q95 at the time?
No, we can pick it up back here.
Sorry about that. Okay, go on. Proceed.
Okay. But I'm going to tell you what, it scared the heck out of me.
Oh, I bet. Now, gentlemen, you guys are seasoned Bigfoot investigators. How would you speak to Greg about this to perhaps confirm his sighting or maybe to find out even more? There's a gentleman who's apparently seen Sasquatch this was in southern Indiana, correct, sir?
No.
Tennessee. Oh, down in Tennessee, which
there'd be no way
which
we
is a
could
little
talk
bit
to
further
the person.
south of southern Indiana.
I like to talk to the man in person, but being in Tennessee is a long way. You said something about the eyes changing.
Yes.
Can you give a color description?
Yes. Okay, first I thought there were reflectors on the road. Okay, then I thought to myself, well, there's no reflectors on this road.
What was the color?
Blue. Bright blue.
Was there a light shining directly on them?
Yes, my light. And I changed. I thought maybe it was a different animal or something. They didn't move. It froze. Then they changed orange.
I don't really know what you've seen. The blue color would be normally of a deer, but I'm not saying you what you didn't see or what you did see, but it's never been, to my findings, of a changing of the eye color.
My recollection was, okay, it was kind of observe us because it was dark out. And it was kind of, it stopped as I shined my light in its eyes. It froze. It didn't move for 10 minutes.
How far away were you from it?
100 yards.
100 yards? We're talking about nighttime?
Nighttime.
What kind of light did you have?
I had a Brinkman police light.
What's that, a 5-cell?
Pardon me?
How many cell battery is that, a 5 or 6, or is that
6.
the 2000?
6.
6 cell? 100 yards?
Well, it probably wasn't even that. It wasn't even that far. Probably 50.
What did he smell like, Greg?
Pardon me?
What did he smell like?
I didn't smell no smell. I'm just telling you what the eyes look like.
Okay.
What was the body description? Did you play the light over the body?
I tried to see the body. I couldn't see a body. I could just see how far the eyes were apart.
How far were the eyes apart?
About I'd say 8 inches.
8 inches apart?
Yes.
Then we're dealing with a monster unknown to any of us. That's quite a distance.
Well, Greg hung up there. I think just... do you run across... I mean, I don't know. I'd like to give a guy like Greg the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I'll run across somebody that, like, especially in Ohio, they have eyes that are self-illuminating, and you shine a light on them, there's nothing there. You turn the light out, then the eyes come on. That's a little bit beyond what I can deal with. I can only deal with one mystery at a time.
But that is something... No, is this related to the Bigfoot thing at all?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
As far away as the eyes are apart, it would have to be over 10 foot tall.
Very good. I didn't mean to make fun of Greg. The
I
story,
didn't either.
the story seemed a little far-fetched. I guess what I like to do is certainly open it up tonight at 239-1095. If there is anybody at all that thinks that they've legitimately seen Bigfoot, and I'm not poking fun, though I'd like to certainly make the proceedings as light as possible. But if you think that you have, and you were sort of like in a sober state of affairs and you were startled, I'd like for you to relate that experience to our investigators tonight. Maybe we can get before we go back to the telephones at 239-1095, do you gentlemen have any feelings about how intelligent Bigfoot may seem?
I believe intelligent is more than the basic animals, such as a deer, coon, but not as equal as a human being.
Right.
More like that about what you...
For the simple fact is, they know when to stay out of the way. They know what they can get away with. They know how close they can approach a human being without getting, let's say, into trouble.
Let me ask you this. You brought up raccoons and animals of that nature. Raccoons have found an uncanny way to sort of live off man and live sort of on the periphery of man by being a scavenger.
That's a habit.
Yeah. Is there some indication that Bigfoot may have been able to do this to perhaps supplement his...
There's never... In all the documentations I have at home, there's nothing indicating a Bigfoot digging in a human garbage can.
If you're enjoying all this rare and unique content, please show your support by subscribing and leaving comments.